You are now locked into the worldwide 20 megabit beacon of truth, hope, and justice, otherwise known as your weekly dose of the Crimson Pill. I, your host, the great and all-powerful Antonin Feori, just make sure you don't peek behind the curtain, folks, encourages you to unfasten your seatbelts and turn on all portable electronic devices as we embark on the maiden voyage of the USS Crimson Pill. Our course has been charted for the Isle of Light by way of the Straits of Knowledge and the Sea of Tranquility. In the event of turbulence, the captain reminds you that your seat cushion is no substitute for an open mind. If you are seated in an exit row, you are now invited to move forward to our first-class cabin of truth at any time. Ladies and gentlemen on bbsradio.com, welcome to the maiden voyage of the Crimson Pill. I am Antonin Feori, your host, proudly at your service. The Crimson Pill is a program where we will introduce a wide range of topics that are pertinent to the day. And we'll do so by utilizing the skills, the expertise, the countless hours and years of work, dedicated research by a host of so many experts on these topics. Today we're very privileged to have as our first guest on the inaugural episode Mr. Jordan Maxwell. For most of the BBS radio listening audience, our first guest needs no introduction, but for folks who may be new to the subject matter or to the station, Jordan Maxwell continues as a preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of occult and religious philosophy. His interest in these subjects began as far back as 1959. His work exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions and secret societies creates enthusiastic responses from audiences around the world. He has conducted dozens of intensive seminars, hosted his own radio talk shows, guested on more than 600 radio shows, written, produced, and appeared in numerous television shows and documentaries, including the internationally acclaimed Ancient Mystery series, all devoted to the understanding of ancient religions and their pervasive influence on the world affairs today, all around us, headlines of the papers every day. His work on the subject of secret societies, both ancient and modern, as well as their symbols, has fascinated audiences around the world for decades. Considering the rapidly moving events of today and the very real part that hidden religious agendas play in our modern war-torn world, these controversial subjects are not only interesting to explore, but far too important to ignore, ladies and gentlemen. His extraordinary presentations include documents and photographs, as well as DVDs, filled with information seldom seen elsewhere. Listening audience, it's my pleasure to welcome to the program Mr. Jordan Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell, hello to you. Good day, sir. How are you?
Well, fine. Thank you for allowing me to be with you today.
It's a privilege for us to have you with us, Mr. Maxwell. We thank you for your availability on such short notice also. And can you tell us, maybe kick us off here to start the program, what's interesting for you these days? Where are your lines of research leading you at this time?
Well, if anyone has been following what I've been doing for the last 50 years, it's really an incredible journey into the dark side of the world that we live in. And I've been saying for many years, and even more so is it true today, that nothing in the world works the way you think it does. Nothing that appears to you in this world is what you think it is. And banks are not what you think they are. Governments don't do what you think they do. You know, the police department isn't there to do what you think it does. Nothing works the way you think it does. It's a whole undercurrent of knowledge and wisdom that's been hidden from the people. And most people around the world, because I've traveled extensively and I talk to people all over the earth, and most people realize that there's some kind of a hidden agenda or some kind of a hidden or a secret system by which the world works, but nobody understands it. But everyone knows there's something going on that keeps everything moving, keeps business operating, keeps wars going, and it seems to be organized, but it's chaotic. And so most people understand that there are strange things going on in the world, and they don't have any control over it, and they don't understand it, but they know there's something going on. Well, I've known for many, many years that there is a hidden operation or a hidden hand behind world events, and I've been looking at that for over 50 years, and I'm fascinated with how much people don't know about religion, about government, about banking, about everyday life. Nothing works the way you think it does. I mean, that's a place where we could start. And if you want to get into particulars, it's up to you.
Well, Mr. Maxwell,
for what I do.
I absolutely agree with each point that you've made thus far. And in fact, this program will be built around attempting to shine light on and disclose a great number of those topics that you briefly touched upon thus far. I'm curious, you had mentioned just a moment ago, nothing is what we really think it is. Now, a portion of our radio audience is familiar with your body of work, but for those who are relatively new to the subject matter, could you give us some of these everyday examples, things that people might step outside or make a trip to the grocery store and be able to pick up on about how this world has been pulled over our eyes, so to speak?
Yes, well, we know about gang graffiti. Drive through the poor areas of Los Angeles, and you'll see graffiti sprayed on walls, and it's replete everywhere. But while it looks like just vandalism, actually graffitiing by these gangs are actually telling you something. They are symbols marking off territories. They're symbols that are marking off different organizations and different groups. And so if you don't understand the colors, if you don't understand the symbols, you think it's just vandalism. In point of fact, it's more than that. It's an actual communication to the world of who is living in that area, who's controlling that area's drugs or crime or whatever. And that's the same way the world works. I mean, you go from one country to another, and you need to understand the symbols, the words, the colors that the people use, the national coats of arms, the flags. Flags have certain colors. That's why, when you have a friend that you thought you understood, and one day you find out that there's a whole different person than you thought he was, you say, well, he showed his true colors. Well, it's because colors, sounds, symbols, emblems, words and terms, all of this is communication between humans, communication. And so once you realize that there's a hidden world of communication throughout the earth, and that there are certain standards of communication, certain symbols that are used by organizations, like on a worldwide scale, for instance, the swastika that was used by Adolf Hitler was the same swastika that was used by the Hindus and Buddhists for different reasons, but there were symbols that mean something to people. And so I've just been looking at these symbols and words and terms and flags and coats of arms and harlotry and corporate logos and presidential seals and that kind of thing, beginning as far back as 1959. I began to become very interested. I mean, I was even interested in such things when I was a young kid. I did very bad in school. I was probably one of the worst students of my time in school. I hated school. I couldn't stand being in school. It was like a prison to me. And as soon as I would get out of school, I immediately went to the library and started reading for myself. I didn't want to buy into what was being handed out at school, because I could see where civilization was going, even in my little town.
Sure.
And so I always thought out of the box, so to speak. I was always wherever. I had a rule of thumb that guided me in my life. Wherever the crowd was going, I would go the opposite way just on principle. So if
That
everyone was going to the ball game, I would go somewhere else, totally different, just on general principles. I don't want to go where the mob goes. I don't want to go where the people go.
Sure.
I want to go that's where no one goes. I want to know the things which nobody seems to know. I want to look at the subjects that nobody deals with. And in order to do that, you've got to be on your own and by yourself, and you're going to pay a price for it. Because if you don't go along to get along, you're going to pay a very dear price in this world for the kind of knowledge you're looking for.
Absolutely. We cannot expect to drink the water that we do not pull from the well.
That's right. And you're going to pay for it. And this kind of knowledge you're going to pay for, because what you're doing is you're now delving into what has been referred to as the dark side. And believe me, there is a dark side to humanity. There is a very dark side to government, to banking, to the way religion works.
And there are forces and powers that be behind the scenes that don't necessarily want us to learn some of that information.
Boy, you got that right. I mean, knowledge is power. And the whole idea has always been, for as long as man's been on the earth, is to make sure that the people, generally speaking, the people have no power. That's what tyrants and politicians and religious leaders want. They want to make sure that the people do not know anything. Make sure the people are ignorant, ill-informed, keep them occupied with alcohol, drugs, entertainments, television, sex, drugs, music, anything. Just give the people something to occupy them. That's what adults do when they are, when a group of adults get together, they let the children go out and play. So always, let the kids go out and play. Why? Because we don't want the children and the infantiles to hear what the adults are talking about. So send the kids out to play ball. So I've never learned how to play ball. I don't play ball with anybody. I want to know who the people are who are guiding the destiny of my country and guiding the destiny of the human race. I'm not interested in playing ball. I'm not a team player. And consequently, I've learned, even in my early teen years, that